This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome into the Triple Option, Paul Catalina and the lovely and talented Garrett Ross today. And Pierre has now moved to Thursdays.
Yep.
So we'll have Pierre on Thursdays now. And I debated over, okay, what is going to be Garrett and I's co-host day? Like, what's that going to be? So for right now, since it's the season, I think Monday needs to be the you and me day because we've got to go through games.
Yep.
We've got to go through things. I got to tell you, I hit a nice balance of football and wife time this week. Like in any fair negotiation, both parties leave a little uncomfortable, but
Correct.
we wound up both having a good time. So
how much or which games were sacrificed for the wife time?
Here's the thing. I was worried that the first half of Clemson and Georgia and West Virginia and Penn State were sacrificed because we went to the pool.
Okay.
But she was like checking the score for me. I was like, okay, well, she's like, West Virginia and Penn State, something weird's going on. She just saw the score. She didn't see that it was in a weather delay, which I was like, great. But then I was looking at the score. I'm like, I'm not enthused about my hardcore.
No, we
let's
bit the
go
bullet
Nears.
We bit the bullet on that one.
Yeah, took that one hard. I will say, Pick'em week 1. Congratulations to Scotty B.
Yes, Scotty
you're
B.
the winner. The winner among us. I 7-3, Craig 6-4, Smokey 5-5, Jack 5-5, Garrett 4-6.
This is all my fault. I did the same thing last year where I made stupid picks early on and try to justify them, and that's not going to happen. I have week 1 under my belt for that, and I'm going to be serious going forward. I will never pick Florida again, ever.
No. I went back and forth on that one because of history, and then I just thought, I've not heard one good thing about Florida for like the entire offseason, other than people saying Graham Mertz is not as bad as you say he is. 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions last year. And I was like, yeah, but like wins. Like overall,
something has to count
how
here.
many games in his career at Wisconsin and Florida has he won?
He's looked good. That first time he came out at Wisconsin, I was like, okay, this kid has something. Then reality set in. He has never been able to.
No, he is not. Like the through line with Graham Mertz is that, all right, he doesn't turn the ball over all that much, but didn't do anything else well either. So
not at all, man.
I mean, like, there's not a lot he does in all of this. So that's what I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back. Now, look, we're probably going to see a lot of DJ Lagway here in the coming weeks.
You're going to have to.
Well, Graham Mertz is in the concussion protocol because in the fourth quarter of that game,
he got
rocked. Clean hit, just rocked.
Well, you could kind of tell, like, they were getting to him, and Miami started dialing up the pressure, too.
I saw something from Miami I have not seen since about 2002, which is those mofos are hunting now.
Yep.
Like, they've got a little of that now. They've got to do more than just beat Florida to keep that. They've got to actually do something in the conference that they're in now, which they've never really done.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think Cam Ward has flipped the ACC. I think that was the flip. I mean, I still think it's going to be a battle between, I think the top 4 teams in the ACC as it stands right now. I've not changed my mind on Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're as good, but I still think they're going to be really good. I think Georgia Tech is going to be a tough out, and I think NC State's going to be a tough out. And Clemson to me is 5th right now until they prove otherwise offensively.
Yeah, that offense is abysmal.
Yeah, so there's a lot to go through. We will save USC and LSU for like maybe after the break so that Garrett can have as much time as I can physically allow on the show to gather his emotions.
Yeah.
I did not get that same benefit a week ago when my team lost in a very similar circumstance. But because I'm a better human being than Garrett, who no, I can't even begin to say that. I'm a better human being than Garrett. I'm going to say that with a straight face as long as I can. No, I'm just the host of the show, so I have to take the bullets first. But I'm going to give you some time to ingest.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and don't forget, by the way, pick 'em. Same link. We'll keep putting in the chat. Keep going back week after week. We'll keep building up. We had about 60 people week 1, 65 to 70, I think, which is good. We want to be at 300, 400, 500, 600. We want a lot,
tell your people.
Without me having to pay, our company having to pay per user, we can go up to about 2,000, which is a nice number for me to keep this at. Overall,
you have to go diving through all of it.
Yeah, no. I mean, like, I don't have to do anything, but like the thing is, the more you get, the more 9-1s you're going to get. The tiebreakers are like, like this week, the tiebreakers, Texas and Michigan. Well, all right. So say we have 2,000 people and 25 of them go 8-2, and all 25 put combined points of 50. Mm-hmm. Then I don't know. I don't know how this works out. There's tiebreakers within the system, but I'm not sure how to do it, but it's very easy to do. So anyway, but I watched a ton of games. I know you watched a ton of games. Jack, I know, watched a lot of games when he wasn't taking some great photos and video at the Baylor game.
Him and Emory crushed it.
Yeah. By the way, I would like to see Emory's photos that he got on TV the other night. And he was like in that like Jabberwocky pose that we took the picture of him in Vegas, but he was like squatted down and got a really good shot of DeQuan Finn coming into the end zone. But I would like to see the picture that he took of DeQuan Finn there.
Right.
Like of all the things that's probably like the dud that he has. It's like, oh man,
this one. Yeah. No, they did a hell of a job.
There's like a great picture of a kid from the band like standing up to like readjust his drum, and then the one with DQ, and it's just like, oh, it's blurry.
Yeah.
But look at this kid with the drum. He moved it so he could eat his hot dog. No mustard on his shirt. Yes. Congratulations, guy. But yeah, so I watched a ton. So Garrett, which game, let's go through what opinions are you curious that I have, and then I'll ask the same back to you.
Curious opinions. Okay. I would say after we have seen Virginia Tech. And we've seen because that was one coming into this game. You were high on Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt. I was a little nervous. Like, I knew he was good. But
he's a rascal, man.
He is. And
he's a rascal.
I honestly forgot about last year, them rolling into Auburn and taking care of business. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
And then once you start watching them, like, Vanderbilt's not going to beat a lot of people, especially once they get into conference play. They're not. They're not necessarily a good team. They are a fun team. But after seeing them, where you look at this is considerably, like, we joke about Vanderbilt all the time, right? Like, they're the bottom of the barrel of the SEC, going up against what is coming into the season, one of the teams the ACC was banking on. What do you make of Virginia Tech coming out of that? And I know Kyron Jones got hurt, but what was your thoughts on that game?
I said it was going to be a good game.
You got that.
I thought because of Diego Pavia, is it Pavia?
I think it's Pavia.
Diego Pavia. By the way, I've been trying to relearn Spanish again, like get back into it. So since I called him a rascal, I'm going to give him a name because he's a very rascally quarterback.
Yes.
Like, where it's like, oh my God, this guy, like, it doesn't really make sense that because he doesn't look particularly, like, if I was going to pick a quarterback out of, like, just off the rack, I'd take KJ Jefferson. That one. Like, are you sure you don't want this one right here? The Diego is, it's surprisingly effective. You're like, no, that one looks right there. That's taller, like, I bet you its arm is stronger, all these other things. And not to knock KJ Jefferson. We talked about
that's
the
one
other
of those
day,
looks can be deceiving things.
Slow start. We'll just put it to that. I would be like, oh no, I don't want, I'm looking at maybe features over performance here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start calling him, because the word for rascal in Spanish is el bribón. I'm going to start calling him el bribón.
I like it.
The rascal.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, el bribón. And so el bribón, Diego Pavia, was fantastic. Like, he just kept making plays.
Yeah.
He kept making plays. I'm not writing Virginia Tech off after this by any stretch of the imagination, but Colin Schlee's probably going to have to play for a couple weeks because Kyron Jones hurt his ankle. He tried to come back in and play. It was not effective late in the game. And that's probably a large reason why they did wind up losing. So if Kyron Jones is going to be out for any kind of a stretch, then that does change what's going on. Now, Colin Schlee's like another 6th or 7th year dude who had some eligibility, who came back, and he's had success in college. There's a reason that Kyron Jones is the starter. They wanted Colin Schlee back there to back him up so they have reliable backup.
Yeah,
because they are good. But I do think that certainly hurt them. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Vandy's going to go and upset Tennessee or anything like that. No. But I'm going to tell you, they're not going to be as easy of an out.
No, they're not going to bow down to anybody. Like, that's what makes them dangerous, is they have no fear. They have nothing to lose. So every game they go in, you can't take them for granted, and you can't sleep on them now, where in the past they just didn't have a playmaker like that really put a threat in you.
Yeah.
But you can't sleep on them this year. I think one of the things that as the weekend was progressing, that kind of caught me off guard a little bit, because we've seen this with them last year, but Oregon struggle offensively against Idaho.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I don't know. Like, that one, I have Big Ten Network among all the things that I have, but I couldn't figure out how to get it up on whatever I was watching. Like, I couldn't find it in regard to everything else I was watching in that moment, which was basically, it sucked because on Amazon Fire Sticks, ESPN Plus doesn't have the multi-view yet, which hopefully they will soon.
Everything should. Hopefully.
Everything should. Like, it should be a feature that
really should.
It'd be like, right now, in my opinion, if you're a sports app and don't have multi-view across all delivery systems, you might as well not have fast forward. Right. I mean, like, what do you
exactly
pause and like, what are you doing? It's 2024, people. But I was going back and forth between A&M and Notre Dame and the near disaster in Lubbock with Tech and ACU. But I am like, it did catch me off guard given all the weapons that they have. I will say one thing that we have not talked about, because they still have Tez Johnson. They went and got Evan Stewart, who really didn't make much of an impact against Idaho. My theory on Evan Stewart, he was just playing in the wrong system. I don't think that's going to be the case with Will Stein, but we'll see. I mean, it's too. But they lost Bucky Irving, who's one of the better running backs in the country last year. And I think that we maybe let that go a little bit more. And they lost Troy Franklin, who, again, one of the better wide receivers in the country last year. So that's two really huge playmakers. And I do think there's clearly a drop off between Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel, even though I love Dylan Gabriel. I think he's fun. I think he's great. But, Bo Nix was the 12th pick in the draft.
Yep.
And Dylan Gabriel, that's not going to happen for him. Yeah, I think there's a bit of a drop off. I think Oregon will find their true north. And sometimes these things are, first game jitters, or, they didn't respect Idaho enough and Idaho came to play.
Yeah, they did.
But yeah, I mean, that was a weird one for sure.
So, okay, you mentioned there the two games with A&M and Notre Dame, whatever. Like in that one, I'm not surprised Riley Leonard did what he did. I think that he was the better quarterback in that situation. Connor Wickman's good. He's just good.
He threw 3 picks.
He threw 3 picks, but the defensive line for A&M was something I was kind of disappointed when we heard, like, bringing in Nick Scorton.
I thought they played well for most of the game. Notre Dame wasn't trying to throw the ball deep, so there's not a lot of opportunities to get sacks. They didn't run the ball well until later. Neither team really ran the ball well all night long. I mean, you saw Mike Elko telling Colin Klein, run the effing ball.
Yeah, he was pissed.
Because they needed to try at it. I think that game went about a way you would think two defensive gurus and like two of the top defensive minds in football running a game wanted it to go, where it was going to come down to the fourth quarter and who was ever stronger in that moment. It was whoever's going to break the big play, and Notre Dame wound up being the team that broke that big play and won that game. My opinion about neither one of them has changed. I thought A&M was impressive in the first game. Fundamentally, they were a lot better. It was funny. A friend of mine texted in our group chat the other night that, ironically, Riley Leonard is much more like Colin Klein than Colin Klein's own quarterback.
That is
spot
on, dude.
That is dead on.
That is wow.
So Colin Klein sitting there watching, his mirror image, like, go down there and do those things. And Riley Leonard is not going to put up spectacular stats on most games, but he's not going to get you beat at all. And he's going to make big plays when it matters. He's probably a poor man's version of JJ McCarthy, in that, like, you don't really have to ask him to go win the game. But you don't also have to tell him, like, please don't do a stupid thing, because he's not gonna. I really do like Riley Leonard. I hope that works out for Notre Dame. I think it'll be great. So yeah, I like that. As far as Texas Tech and ACU goes, very much in the same thing as Oregon and Idaho, but Tech's had a problem on defense. I mean, going back more than one head coach. So I think Joey McGuire is drilling down this week to make sure, they got Wazoo. That's going to be an interesting one. And I think for sure they discounted ACU. I think that's something that they did. Maverick McIver was there.
That's a name too.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, Maverick McIver also, that's a Texas Tech quarterback name, and he was a Texas Tech quarterback. And he came back to Lubbock, and he was, I don't want to take anything away from him, but sometimes I think you see somebody so locked in that it does not matter who they're playing or what's going on around them. I will say that reminded me a lot of Chandler Morris against Baylor.
Oh, yeah.
Where, like, you're just watching him and like, oh, this kid's everything's going right. And Tech just defensively had no answer for them. They made silly mistakes. Joey McGuire, I've never seen him that puckered up at the end of a game before, intense. And I do think that Patterson messed up by going for 2. I understand why he did it. And we wouldn't be saying this had they made it.
Right.
But I think in hindsight, like, look, you've been holding serve and, going back and forth for a long time. Like, get it to the 2-point conversions at least. That way, you can, that's what I would try to do. I know that the conventional wisdom of the old overtime was like, look, we don't want to keep doing this having 7, 8, 9, 10 plays.
Correct.
But now when after the second overtime, it just goes to 2-point conversions. It's only one play each time. So I would try, if I'm the massive underdog on the road in that situation, try to get to 2-point conversions, because then I think that's in my favor, because now you're not trying to stop, what's potentially like, a drive, so to speak, or short drive. You're trying to stop a play.
Right.
You're calling one play at a time, as opposed to, okay, well, we haven't done this well. We haven't done this well. We haven't done this well. Well, you're just getting out the 2-point conversion playbook that you have and doing that.
Right.
So
I think so. So the next thing I'm curious about is, so we saw Colorado play the other night, and we saw Travis Hunter put on a damn show, and everybody coming out of that was Heisman front runner, and rightfully so. And then as the weekend unfolds, Ashton Jeanty has himself a night. Teteroa McMillan has himself a night.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on some of these individual performances we've seen just in week 0, week 1, man?
I would say right now, here's my Heisman, like the people I would, if the season ended after one game, it would be Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter, Ted McMillan, Cam Ward are my 4. Like those are the ones I thought were the most impressive. Carson Beck was good, but he didn't do anything that was like,
he did what he needed to do.
Worthy.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be a Heisman candidate, to be quite honest with you. I think that
he doesn't have to be. All he's got to do is get the ball to his playmakers. He's going to be good. He's going to be a first-round pick, and he's going to be fine. It's like Stetson Bennett all over. But
I don't think he's going to put up the ridiculous numbers that other people at his own position will put up. I would also put Jalen Miller played Western Kentucky. I mean, but Jalen Milroe was fantastic. Jackson Dart was fantastic.
Arkansas, Taylon Green
was like,
good
all
God.
these. What I was very impressed with is all these teams that did exactly what they were supposed to do in these games. Like, now, were they boring to watch? Hell yeah, they were. But they did exactly what they were supposed to do. I thought there was a lot. Ashton Jeanty was great.
Yeah.
That was a really good game. Georgia Southern's a good team. Boise State's good. Georgia Southern came to play, but I think they probably knew that, look, we're not going to win this game if we can't stop Ashton Jeanty. And, well,
hey, good luck with that. Nobody's going to stop him.
New Mexico was winning the game against Arizona for a minute, and then Teteroa McMillan was like, no. Every time, you can't cover me, and I'm going to make sure that the world knows that you can't cover me. He was absolutely fantastic. Man, he and Luther Burden are going to get kicked really, really high. The wide receivers I was the most impressed with were Ted McMillan. Luther Burden didn't have to do much the other night, but I still think, but I really liked him. Kyron Lacey, I'm not surprised. He's
the dude.
I expected that. Hunter from USC last night.
That catch he made was one of the best catches I've ever seen in my life.
USC is better across the board better across the board than I thought they were. All across the board, particularly on defense. We'll talk about that next. I have
Xavier Restrepo, man.
Yeah, Xavier Restrepo, really, really good player. So
what about, I know coming into this, you've been really high on Boise, Memphis as your G5 teams. And I think everybody should be, right? Especially when you look at what Boise did, but look at and I know Houston's got some work to do, but UNLV just handling business.
Yeah, Houston has a long way to go. That was not the way they want to do it. But UNLV, look, should be better. And Matthew Saluka got the start, and he's super athletic. He didn't wow me, but everything worked out for them. Houston made mistakes, and look, they don't have to worry. They got Willie Fritz.
Mm-hmm.
That will get right.
Yeah.
But they're in transition right now. So yeah. By the way, Paxton just asked, Orgy's not the starter for Michigan.
No, he's not.
Davis Warren is. And if you have one, you have one. If you got two, you got none. And so
I think Michigan's going to get worked by Texas.
Their defense will probably hold Texas into a reasonable, where it's not going to feel like it's 52-10, because it won't be 50. It's not going to be 52-10. but it could be 34-10 and feel the same way. You know, like where when if Texas gets a lead of 2 touchdowns in that game at any point, I think it's done.
It probably is.
I think it's done. And Colorado State, not even a fair measure to grade Texas against. I feel bad for Troy Horton, who's a really excellent wide receiver at Colorado State. Kind of, you know, but because but Texas was fantastic the other day. And I mean, there's no reason to even watch that game other than, you know, like Arch Manning came in and
that's what I was wondering. Like
started dicing people up.
I was wondering the ratings on that from when the news came in that Arch was on the field. Like I'm sure
they had a bump, and like
that spiked.
He only threw 1 incompletion and looked good. So, man, like I don't know. I had a lot of FOMO about my own team's roster watching like games around the country this week. I mean, Travis Hunter's the FOMO. I mean, literally, like down to
he's
minutes.
The one because he's the one that got away.
Down to minutes.
He's the one that got away.
Down to minutes. Not even Shadur, because Shadur wouldn't even have been playing until this year anyway, because Jordan Travis was there. But like Travis Hunter was down to minutes.
Nope.
Like, you know, Mike Norvell sitting in the office waiting for the thing to come through, and then all of a sudden Jackson State.
I would have loved to have been in that room when that came across.
Well, you know what? Like, that's the ultimate, like, spiteful move. Like, oh, you're not going to make me the head coach of this program? Just wait until I can do something to hurt you.
Yep, I'm going to get you.
Yeah. Didn't matter at all last year, although you threw Travis Hunter on that team last year. I'm just saying. But
I guess the last thing I have before we go into the next segment is I want to talk about that West Virginia Penn State game because man,
Penn State absolutely broke them.
They were so much bigger. Like here's what I had a problem
a lot bigger.
With. The size difference between Penn State up front on defense and what West Virginia was working with on offense. And I like going for it. I like being aggressive in those situations. But the play calls to try to test the strength of that defense when you know you're at a disadvantage and do it over and over again was concerning for me. I thought that Garrett Green would have developed better as a passer over this offseason, and that just did not happen. Granted, that could just be a bad mismatch, but one sample size, he looks like he has not progressed as a passer. And I've been completely wrong on Drew Aller because he definitely has gotten a lot better. And that Andy Kolenicki offense with the playmakers that they have could be interesting.
Yeah, that was disappointing for me because I had really doubled down. I thought like everything was going to be in their favor. And I've maybe doubted Penn State a little unfairly. Now, we'll see what happens when Penn State gets into the teeth of their Big Ten schedule. But Penn State's
I think they avoid
their Big Ten schedule is not terrible. I mean, it's like everybody's schedule is hard to varying degrees, but they go to USC on October 12th.
That
like if week 1 holds, that's going to be a really good game. We don't know anything about Wisconsin yet. I
don't know about Wisconsin.
Ohio State. They have Washington at home. We don't know anything about, but down the stretch at Purdue, at Minnesota, and Maryland.
Those are 3 dubs.
You're looking at the possibility of playing of either playing Ohio State again, which you probably should, or say Oregon or wins the game against Ohio. Like they should be playing against Maryland with at least a shot to be in the title game.
Yeah.
That may or may not be in their total control, but it should not be where they go into that last week wondering with this schedule.
Right.
They should not go in wondering, are they going to be in the title game? And either they're not in the title game.
They don't have to be. Just put yourself in position to make the playoff.
12th.
Yeah, that's all you got to do.
Just be 12th. If they are below 12th with this schedule,
then
something's wrong.
Yeah.
Something's wrong because they just thumped one of the teams that I think it's eventually going to be a really, kind of a tough team to beat. But it was never in doubt.
No.
in that game. So when we come back, we're going to talk all things Tigers and Trojans. So, and dogs. We've got to talk about Clemson and Georgia and USC and LSU. And I will let Garrett pick the order in which we talk about them when we come back. This is the one true triple option on 365 Sports.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back to the Triple Option. I'm Paul Catalina alongside Garrett Ross, and it is week one. And I think I have to, here's what's great about this. Mm-hmm. From February on this show, I have to come up with different topics to quite honestly bullshit our way through this on speculation.
Yes.
And I'm pulling back the curtain here for all the podcasts you watch. Is if you're covering a certain subject, there is actual time, season time, and bullshit time.
Correct.
We are now done with bullshit time.
Yep.
And we are in season time, and we will enjoy it until we go back to bullshit time. Now, bullshit time has, and I've said this word a lot today, but it has a couple of good months.
It does.
But then after a while,
it wears on you.
It's like ordering a Caesar salad every single day for lunch. We're like, all right, I like a good chicken Caesar salad, but can I get a club sandwich?
Yeah.
Can I get something else?
Shake it up a little.
Let's shake it up a little bit. Maybe I get soup in a bread bowl. I don't know. Let's go crazy. But that's what it feels like after a while. I just feel like I'm, going, the usual, Ted.
Yep.
And then he's like, absolutely, extra croutons. You know me so well, Ted. My life is not an endless loop, I promise. So this is the great time. Garrett, I told you as we left the last segment.
We did.
That I was going to give you the opportunity. We're going to talk about Dabo Sweeney first, which I have many thoughts. And I have a statistic that again continues to work in my favor on this argument, or all of our favors, because there's only a few more holdouts on his side right now.
Okay.
And that's kind of like the guys who were like hanging out like, no, Stalin's still cool. I don't mean to compare him to Stalin. He's not Stalin, but you get that you're so loyal to, you're like, no, he'll figure it out without compromising what he's doing. Like he'll see it through the other side once this fad passes. The transfer portal is the slap bracelet of the college football world. Or do you want to talk about your Tigers? So which Tiger game are we going to talk about first?
Let's do Dabo. Just you were rolling with Dabo. Let's go Dabo first.
Okay, we'll do Dabo first. So in the spring, during bullshit time, I did a video about Dabo Sweeney in the transfer portal where I feel I posed several very valid questions about why he won't use it. I understand not thinking it's a cure-all because it's not a cure-all.
No.
We're not asking for him to don't
be a Dion.
Don't do Dion, but the team he just lost to, a team that he would have never lost to by 31 points in previous years, under the previous systems of acquiring talent. The team he just lost to beat him by 31 points. They used to be on par with Georgia.
Without their starting running back.
Without I mean, I think that's splitting hairs because the other guy's really good too. But without the playmaker, the true playmaker of the two, Frazier's more of the grinder, and ATN is like
take the top off.
Is the oh crap.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think he was missed more in Gainesville than maybe Tim Tebow the other day because they really needed somebody that explosive, which they did not have.
Nope.
They had Montreal Johnson had one really good run, and he's a good running back, but he's not ATN.
Nope.
You know, ATN can just do things. So they did that without him. And if he had played, this would have and scored. This only fit the statistic that I'm about to tell you. So there were 4 touchdowns scored in the game. London Humphreys scored 1.
Okay.
He is a transfer from Vanderbilt. Cash Jones scored 1. He is a transfer from Vanderbilt. Colby Young scored 1. He is a transfer from Miami. Now, Frazier scored the other one, but it was a 2-yard run after a dirty move on a huge gain by Dominic Lovett, who is, you guessed it, a transfer from Missouri. So if he's wondering where the gap is between Clemson and Georgia, because there's a talent gap.
Oh, it's
that when it was 6-0 at halftime and Georgia had to figure out who are the guys that we know can make plays, they went to veteran players to make plays. London Humphreys was really good last year at Vanderbilt. Cash Jones, I mean, yes, but like that was just more of a I mean, it was, but it still fits my narrative, so I'm going to keep it. Colby Young, same thing at Miami, didn't really fit in there, scored a touchdown. Dominic Lovett left a Mizzou team that was kind of transitional and went to Georgia, and there he is. They went to the guys who were there. Now, Clemson, in the same scenario, just had to look at the guys who hadn't had some of that experience and go, well, it's time to grow up right now, and they had no answer for it. Their offensive, I don't think their scheme is really the problem on offense with Garrett Riley. I think they have not given Garrett Riley
the playmakers.
I mean, if you look at what he did, is anybody compare, let's just compare that offense to TCU in 2022.
Correct.
Okay. And I thought maybe this would be the case, and it still might be for Cade Klubnik, but from what I've seen, no.
Starting to get,
Who would you rather have, Max Duggan or Cade Klubnik?
At the moment, Duggan.
I'd take Max, but Max Duggan that last year grew up.
Yeah. Because it was, he made a massive jump.
Yeah. Okay. Who on that team is Quentin Johnston?
Nobody.
Who on that team is Darius Davis?
Nobody.
Who on that team is Amani Bailey?
Nobody.
Who on that team is Kendry Miller?
They have no playmakers.
Okay. So Phil Moff is a really good running back, but the best playmaker, the guy who's the game changer, plays for the Eagles now, and Will Shipley. You know, they're tight end. Do they have Jarrett Wiley? No, they don't have any of that compared to what Garrett Riley, who was the offensive coordinator in both spots, had. So, I mean, you can't really blame Garrett Riley, especially considering that a couple of those guys I mentioned were transfers. And TCU had some guys too that were like the 4th or 5th options that were just really good.
Yep.
I mean, everybody talks about Quentin Johnston all the time in that team, but Darius Davis was their other oh crap, there's that guy, and Clemson still has some of those guys on defense.
Their defense played pretty good the first half.
But eventually
they got wore out.
But eventually you're just going to snap because your offense can't do anything for you. So their defense is still there. And if they want to win games like Iowa, more power to them, but you're also not going to be facing Minnesota offenses week in and week out. They're playing App State this week. App State might have skill players on par with them.
They probably will.
This is he is, I think Dabo, and when you hear him talk, he thinks the second half was the anomaly and not the first half. What I'm telling you is the first half was the anomaly. That was you played well on emotion. Your defense, was matching them player for player, and you were doing some things and confusing them. But when Georgia started to take more chances, they were better equipped to, and you couldn't. You had to kind of still keep it within the, what you're confident what you can do. Georgia can take risks. They can go out there and go, okay, you go be the athlete we signed you to be. Clemson doesn't have that right now. And they used to have it in like just
across
over
the board,
and over and over. I mean, just name the players. They had them. And I mean, the calls for Dabo to use the transfer portal are only going to get louder. And it doesn't matter what we say outside, but inside, when you have like, you're telling me that when Travis Etienne went in the portal, that you could not have called him considering his brother played for you and gotten him there.
Could have.
But since he told you no before, he's off the table. So he's going to go to Georgia, and Georgia took like 11 or 12 transfers.
But that's what Clemson should do. If Clemson took 5 to 10 legit transfers.
Well, because you're going to have 5 or 10 guys who kind of fall off your roster.
That's all you need for a program like that.
Yeah. So you're going to like, that's what kind of weirds me out is that here's where you're talking about taking transfers and where you can go get like the good ones that are in the portal. Clemson can go get because you're Clemson. So why not do it? It's not about taking 20 players, but every year you're going to have 5 to 10 players that fall off your roster because of injuries, because they want to go to a different place or grades or whatever reason. And when you lose those guys, that gives you a chance to upgrade where maybe you wouldn't like, even in your philosophy, like these are guys who committed us, we're going to keep with them. If they're going to keep with us, that's great, Dabo. I actually really admire that of like, let's put into the effort to these guys if they're willing to put the effort back. But if they're just done or gone, or if you're Andrew Makuba and want to go play at home in Austin, I mean, like, okay, well, now you've lost that. Like, you want to make sure that you replace, one of the 2 best safeties in the country, a stud with a stud, and not do that. So why not get 10 transfers that are veterans that aren't necessarily all stars or all Americans, but they can help you. That's where it doesn't make sense to me. And
even if they could have got like a Kobe Bryant, like when he hit the portal, instead of letting him go to Oregon, you to get him out there, like that could have helped you significantly. But I don't understand it at this point because you're in a position where you built this up from you spent like 16 years they gave you before you won your first championship. Yeah. And then your just stubbornness is letting you all that work you put in is crumbling because you're arrogant. Like that makes no sense to me. Why you would want to do what? So at this point, is it just the playmakers aren't there for K Klubnik, or is he just not developing? Because I'm starting to get some real Garrett Gilbert vibes from that.
I think it's a little bit of both. And look, Cade Klubnik may not be in the right program for him. Garrett Gilbert got better when he went to SMU, right? He was in the right program for himself. So sometimes it's that easy that they're just not in the right program for themselves. And all right, be that as it may. But I mean, they really like. The thing that shook me to my core watching that game about this was it wasn't just about the transfer portal. It's also about the high school talent because the gap between Georgia and Clemson talent-wise is prodigious.
Well, why at this point?
And not even like I'm not even talking about those guys that I mentioned like London Humphreys and all that. I'm talking about just the linemen on both sides of the ball, the players that Kirby Smart's recruited. He is beating Dabo at every turn in that regard. And if Clemson wants to get back into the playoff and win national championships again, they better start copying what Kirby Smart does or doing it more like Kirby Smart does and less like Gene Stallings did.
Well, but here at this point, though, you're getting to the point where when you start recruiting high school players, why do I want to come play at Clemson anymore? If you're not going to use the rules there to help us as a team get better, why should I show any interest in wanting to come be a part of your program? Because right now there's no hope of winning a championship there anymore unless you adapt. So unless I just love Dabo for some random reason, if I'm a high caliber player, they wouldn't even be on my radar anymore. No. Personally,
I mean, why would I not go?
What's the point?
Yeah, why would I not go somewhere? Here's the other thing: it does not look fun to play at Clemson.
No,
right now.
Hell no.
It does not look fun. You know where it looks fun to play? Miami. Okay, it looks fun to play at Miami this week. Now, I'm reserving my judgment. It doesn't look fun to play at Florida. It doesn't look fun to play at Clemson.
Nope.
It does not look fun. It looked fun. Look, I know Brian Kelly is not exactly
nice
Krusty the Clown when it comes to putting on a show, but it still looks fun to play there. It looks fun to play at USC. It looks fun as hell to play at Oregon. It looks fun as hell to play at Bama and Georgia and FSU and Tennessee. God, it looks fun as hell to play at Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
My God. Ole Miss. Like, look how fun that is. Mississippi State ain't bland with Jeff Lebby. That offense was fun to watch the other day. Even though it was tense as shit the other day, it looks fun to play in Lubbock, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
It looks fun. It does not it looks like going to the library at Clemson in Florida right now. Mm-hmm. And Florida's way further down that pole than Clemson is. But if Dabo Sweeney does not look down the road and say, hey, there by the grace of God go I, and pride cometh before the fall, so I better swallow this pride and start changing up my things and stop living on a moral hill that you are alone on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you and the military academies. And
that's their
don't
force.
You think the military academies would take a couple of guys if they were allowed to? If there weren't too many problems with that? Yeah, I'm sure they would. You're telling me that if you could get, say, I'll just throw out a guy at Florida who they got, who I really like, is their defensive tackle, Joey Slackman. Huge dude. They got, I can't remember if he's the Ivy League guy or not. I think he's the Ivy League guy. But you're telling me that we couldn't make him into a soldier? put him on the Army Black Knights and let him just wreak havoc. Let's go. But no, they can't. So the other three that don't take transfers are not allowed to because foreign governments could influence that.
Yes.
So we can't have that because of spies. Literal spies are the reason you can't transfer in. And to get a transfer from, say, USF, I just have to call the kid when he puts his name in. To get a transfer to go to Air Force, I have to call a goddamn senator. So what are we talking about?
It's a little different.
What are we talking about here, Dabo?
Different.
You are and listen, I'm not dogging Clemson as a school, but it ain't West Point.
No.
Okay? I mean, I don't know. Well, my rant is over on that. Now, Garrett, Brian Kelly slammed his fist on the table. He admitted that he's not doing a good enough job.
No, he's not doing a good enough job. He's not at all. This is what I was worried about this whole time with him. It's the defense. This is exactly what I was expecting. Look, Garrett Nussmeier is a good quarterback, but he is not mobile, and that was going to be an issue with the offense if you weren't going to have those explosive plays that you had with Jaden Daniels. The hope was that you could finally get the rushing attack going to alleviate that. I thought Caleb Jackson should have a breakout game. He didn't do nothing. The only hope of showing a spark in the rushing attack came with John Emery coming in the third quarter, and he had one good run in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
The defensive line did better. I think the defensive line and the linebackers, especially the linebackers, with Weeks back there, he is going to be a sleeper coming in, and he's really funny person to listen to, talk to, a little country kid. But him and watching Harold Perkins finally get cut loose on blitzes on third down was refreshing. That secondary is still just trash. They're bad. The PJ Westwood, I think the freshman they threw out there, he looks like a freshman. He's going to be good. Sage Ryan and Major Burns are liabilities, massive liabilities. You go look at that pass that set up the touchdown for USC. I don't know what Sage Ryan was looking at because he got that. Hudson was about 5 yards behind him. It was so fast. It was ridiculous to see how open he got. I think USC did a great job defensively in the second half. And I think that Lincoln Riley owes everybody in Oklahoma and USC handwritten apologies for keeping Grinch around as long as he did. Because if they would have had this defense, they could have probably had some championships along the way. I think that the way they were able to not let Kyron Lacey get loose in the second half and just let him torch them. They did a good job of going into coverage and saying, we're not going to let LSU beat us deep. We're going to force you to let Mason Taylor have these drop down passes. And he was good. He did his thing, but you had no explosive plays in the second half whatsoever. And then the ignorant penalties, the stupid personal foul penalties LSU had that gave it 2 touchdowns, so undisciplined.
Now, I think the one that led to the first
the
USC,
Kyron, the gun,
the one that
the jumping on the line,
that was silly.
I don't understand that call. I get it. I get where they're coming from, saying,
but look, LSU did it 5 more times.
I know.
And USC jumped offside or had false starts on 2 more of them, and they didn't call that same thing again, and nothing was different.
Yes.
So to me, that's an admission of we've
seen that with the Big 12 refs. So they always do
messed that up
stuff
before,
like that.
So yeah.
But yeah, that one was one where I didn't agree with. The Kyron Lacey, the gun thing, yeah, you probably shouldn't have done that one. But no, overall, man, these were 2 teams that I think both USC and LSU are improved from last year. They reminded me of the Spider-Man meme. They were almost identical. Miller Moss is a damn good quarterback. Garrett Nussmeier's a damn good quarterback. USC's playmakers made the plays. Their defense stepped up. LSU thought it was over. I think they got really complacent there on that last drive with USC and let USC just march the field. They should have been more aggressive on that. That's inexcusable. That's not championship caliber play. If they look about what I thought they did, I'm still disappointed in that secondary, man, in the rushing attack.
I'm going to tell you one thing real quick. So last night, Jaquavius marks just a first down. Well, Woody marks. I'm sorry. He goes by Woody. But I was like, I like his name, Jaquavius. That's a unique name. And Amanda's like, his name's Woody. I'm like, no. His name's Jaquavius.
Yes.
But he goes by Woody, which I understand because Jaquavius is a long name. That's a name that lends itself to a nickname. And we have a long name, honestly, and I would not have picked Woody out of it either. No. But I really liked him at Mississippi State, and then he's there at USC now. So she's like, I was like, no, well, that's his. She's like, well, how did they get Woody? I'm like, I don't know. That's the story. I can't wait to hear the story about why they call him Woody. I can't wait for it. But watching that game, I got the sense of, and this has been. They've played these games on Sunday and Monday night the last 3 years.
Hate them.
And Brian Kelly is out there in front of it, and at least he's self-aware enough to know that a lot of this is on him, and that maybe
it's on him.
Maybe they are he's got to do something better of teaching situational awareness. And I thought this as well. Very famously, Lincoln Riley tried to get USC to back out of this game. I wondered how that would go. And there's 2 ways it can go. LSU could have come out and he could have gone to the athletic director after a loss and gone see, I told you we should have backed out. Or now he's like, well, we're going to play it. We better focus out, which is clearly what they did. Danton Lynn is the hire of the offseason.
Yes, he did a great job, man.
USC did not play defense like that for a single snap. Oklahoma didn't play defense like that. No defense that Lincoln Riley has ever had has played like that for a single snap, and they did it pretty. It was Garrett Nussmeier was fantastic last night, but he earned everything that he got.
Dude, their defensive line was in his grill all night long. Mason Cobb was the way he was able to do defensively for the linebacker position, it was ridiculous. It was so impressive to watch what USC's defense did. It's just they earned it, man. It sucks. I'm just going to be real. I'm frustrated, but at the end of the day, you got to give props for what they're doing. USC was the better team on that night. That's just is what it is.
Yeah, they were.
My God, dude, it's so annoying. I'm just looking at this how long is this going to play out? Because I'm thinking, man, could you get Lane Kiffin? Could you come on over? Dan Mullen, maybe.
Dan Mullen doesn't want to recruit.
I know he doesn't want to recruit. He had some funny insight, but I even had the disgusting thought this morning of Urban Meyer, like just out of sad desperation for longing for a championship.
You don't want to.
I don't want that.
You don't want to be there.
But God, dude, I don't know what Brian. I don't think he's the right guy, man. I just haven't liked this from the jump.
You haven't like. To be fair, this isn't like a. This isn't like a thing where you're like, oh, this is a great hire, and then at the first sign of trouble, you abandoned ship. You didn't like it from the jump. You didn't like it from the jump.
I did not. I didn't think it was the right fit. It just made no sense. It doesn't look like he grasp it. And also like financially, they can't compete here with like the big like Georgia, Texas. Like it's going to be a struggle for them to
eventually they're going to be some people, but also part of that is you have to they have to get the alumni to invest so they can win, but then they also have to win so the alumni will invest. So it's a weird I
don't understand though too. Like here's another thing. For so long you could never get a quarterback, and all you could do was you were elite at running the ball and you had an elite secondary. Mm-hmm. And then now your secondary sucks. You can't run the you can't run the ball, but you have like good quarterback. But like, can you just find the balance and spread this out a little bit and put together a championship roster? Because you're almost there, but you're just missing it. It's overlap. It's so frustrating. And I know a lot of people out there would love to have the roster LSU has and everything, but good God, when you've been spoiled with a team like 2019, it just screws everything up.
Yeah.
It screws everything up, man.
Yeah. So I think like Brian Kelly, they needed a coach like Brian Kelly because they were in organizational chaos.
Yes. And that happens.
He is very good at the paperwork end of these things, of the organizational flow chart, the CEO part of this.
Yes.
You know, if you have a company, for example, if I was going to hire a new CEO at Southwest Airlines and I needed someone at least in the short term who was just going to like get us back to like functionality and like be able to go through and be like, well, this is dumb that you're doing this. We've got to update this. We've got to do that. We've got to do that. Brian Kelly's the kind of
he's a good consultant
of person I would bring in to do that. But I think I would stop short of thinking that Southwest Airlines is all of a sudden going to have like fiscal growth quarter over quarter, where like I think you stop short of like LSU is going to be a very effective, good team. Are they going to be great?
No,
I don't know, because Notre Dame was always effective, good, competitive.
But when you got into the games where he had to outcoach somebody,
yeah. So that's where like the amenities come in. Like, you know, I can go to a Chili's and get a good meal every time, right? But, you know, am I going to write like a review? Like, if I'm going to tell people, like, listen, you got to get to that Chili's.
Yeah.
Like, you've been, no. But if I go to, say, like, Franklin Barbecue, look, the line's really long. It takes a long time to get your food. You sit out and wait. But when you get it, it's magical.
Right.
Like, that's the Alabama of this. But I don't know. It's just, like, those are the things he's good at. You know, are they going to be a juggernaut like they can be? I don't know if that's Brian Kelly's speed. Now, if the next guy just comes in and says, oh, I like the way this athletic department runs. This is good. I like the way the program is set up. But here's where I can, you know,
so
I can put some flavor on this.
So what you're telling me is I need Ryan Day to get beat by Michigan, get fired, and come to the boot.
Yeah,
that's what I need.
Now, I'll tell you this. If Ryan Day loses to Michigan and then loses in the first round of the playoff with this team and this $20 million, all that, there are going to be teams that may be 2 years away from thinking about firing their head coach. They're like, sorry, you know, those 2 years you had gone.
Yeah.
Gone. Like, look, we I'll tell you, and that's why I think Florida would love for that to happen, because Florida doesn't have just one rival. Ohio State only has one rival. That's it. Florida has
got like 3 or 4.
They have like 4 legit rivals who are all better than them right now. FSU, who's their biggest rival, is better. Georgia, who's the second biggest rival, is better. Tennessee, who's the third biggest rival, is better. LSU, who's the fourth biggest rival, is better. So then you're looking at potentially a school that you wouldn't even piss on if it was on fire, coming into the swamp and having a shot to beat you if their quarterback plays better in KJ Jefferson. Like, this is
another one. Gus, come to the boot.
Yeah.
My God.
I did like, and I think like Brian Kelly, again, he's good.
Yeah.
But LSU does not aspire
they don't need
to
a good
good
coach.
They aspire to great.
Great coach.
Yeah.
I'm
so
sad. No, it's man, it's just so frustrating. Like, how do you not have this much talent and not win a season opener since 2019? Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, I'm so, and we've talked about this last year, and this is kind of tying this up with the LSU game and USC and the Georgia Clemson game. That was another reason, just watching those. I'm tired of the neutral site crap. Those don't even feel like college games. You just play those home and home, because that's another thing that I did not like watching them too.
No, I'm with you. Well, you know how I feel.
I know, but it's just like watching, especially like watching early on before it went off the air, when I would watch Clemson and Georgia and then flip back over to West Virginia and Penn State. The atmosphere, the vibe is totally different.
You know what sucks about West Virginia, that rain delay?
Yeah.
Is that had the game been, say, 13-6 when it went into rain delay and not 20-6,
you could have kept some people. Probably
you would have kept some people, but then 2 hours, they're down by 2 touchdowns. It's 2+. That was almost 3. Like, it was a long time. It was going into that third hour. Are you going to stay? No, probably not. Especially given how much traffic has shut down the city for the last couple days. I'll just go home. I'm miserable and wet anyway.
Yep.
Let's just go. Yeah, I can't imagine how many let's just go, Herb, like conversations there were at that game. You know, I'll stay at a game through thick and thin, through everything, if I bought the ticket. Like, I'm
committed.
I'm committed. Since I was a kid, my parents, one time when I was 7 years old, we all went to on Thanksgiving, went to Cowboys and Seahawks. It was my first ever Cowboys game. And it was in Texas Stadium. It was bitter cold. And the Cowboys in the fourth quarter were getting just stroked. Steve Pallure was playing instead of Danny White, and Danny was my favorite player. So it was like, they thought like, well, maybe we'll get Paul away because Danny's hurt and all this. And I made them stay. Like, I would not leave. And my dad, proud. My mom, annoyed. I remember it to this day. I was 7 years old, and she was like, I'm so cold. And he's like, go out to the car. Go out to the car. Here, go to the car. I don't know where the car, like all these. Like, it's cold. It's cold. My grandparents, my nan and granddad are cold. Granddad's like, well, I'm in it. Look, here's the thing. They're both veterans.
That's what I was like,
they're both veterans. Like, my granddad was in 2 wars. He was in World War II and Korea, and my dad was in Vietnam. Now, granted, Vietnam was not cold, but you have like these 2 veterans sitting up there, and they're like, look, I can't, like, I'm not going to be able to give this guy a life lesson by saying it was really tough when we were in Korea by like saying like, hey, you remember when you out-toughed us at the football game, which is not a war. Yeah, no, I think that was a point of pride. That was very much a men versus women thing. And
right.
My mom's like, well, the Cowboys are not going to come back. I'm like, there's 12 minutes left in this game.
You don't know.
You don't know. I want to see the end of the game. I thought even at that point that something magical was going to happen. It did not.
It did not.
But I'll tell you, because I've toughed things out, I've gotten to see some great things in sports. But I do understand, like, also, and look, I'm not immune to that. I'm not like batting 1,000. My friends came down when FSU played at Gaylord Family Stadium against Oklahoma, and it was 7-7. And then before halftime, it was like 4,000-7. And we got back in the car and drove to the hotel in Oklahoma City.
Don't blame you. I left that. Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to see that anymore. Didn't want to see that. I was just done.
Save your eyes. Man.
I actually, I think you remember me asking off the air, Christian Ponder, that question.
Yeah.
And he said, I wish I could have gone with you. That was a rough day. It was rough. Started out great. After that, wheels came off. So
it happens.
It happens. But today on the show, RJ Young of Fox Sports, one of the more entertaining college football commentators. If you've not seen RJ, please check him out. We've got JJ Joe,
Phil Bennett.
Phil Bennett will be on the show today, plus my top 5, and we have a million things to get to. So that's all coming up in an hour. This is 365 Sports.